Welcome, 11 billion. Recap, no time to die. There will be spoilers ahead. The movie begins with a man walking with a gun in snow alone towards a house. Meanwhile, a little girl and her mother lives in the isolated house. Soon after, the woman calls over the little girl and asks her to bring her a drink. The woman's seen a bit tipsy. She drops the cup to the floor. The little girl tries to do the cleaning. While cleaning, the little girl suspects there is an intruder, but continue cleaning. The next moment, an unidentified man with mask appears behind the window. She tries waking her mother up to no avail. She hears a gunshot. Be scared, she finds cover under the bed and hide. Shortly after that, the masked man breaks into the house and is seen telling the little girl's mother, "Your husband killed my family afterward. He shoot and killed her." After that, the masked man searches around for the little girl. Suddenly, he hears something and turns towards the bed. Following this, the little girl comes out from her cover with a gun and shoots sporadically at the man. She then drags him out of the house into the snow outside. Suddenly, the man wakes up. She runs deep into the ice and gets trapped in an ice bank. But the man, seeing her helpless, shoots to break the ice. In the next scene, the little girl then, now a grown woman known as Madly, while swimming, seen talking to a man known as Mr. James Bond. After that, they're both seen in a car soon after. They arrive at the hotel somewhere in Italy, literally at the door, and started getting intimate. After some time, Madly asks Bond to tell her about Vesper and also asks if Bond can forgive Vesper. It seems Madly wants Bond to forgive Vesper before she can have a future together with him. According to her, if Bond can do that, then she will tell Bond all her secrets. The next morning, Bond kisses Madly in bed, then seen walking. Soon he arrive at Vesper Lynn's grave, stare at the grave and speak, "I miss you." After some time, he bring out a sheet of paper with inscription on it, "Forgive me," and then put it on fire. After that, Bond pick up a card at the grave. On it is a logo. He stare at it. Suddenly, bomb explode, and Bond fall to the ground. He gets up and try calling Madly immediately. No response. After that, Bond started running. The next moment, Bond has been chased by men in cars and on bikes. To escape, he has to jump off a bridge. After some time of running, Bond subdue one of the men on bike. Following this, the man tells Bond, Madly is the daughter of Spectre. Hearing this, Bond get on the bike and take off. The next moment, he arrive at the hotel and a man tells Bond, "Your baggages are already down, as your wife requested." The next moment, Bond stand at the room door. Madly, upon seeing him through the mirror, walk to him in shock and ask what happened to him. Bond grab her close tight and yell, "How did they know I was here?" Soon after, the phone in the room started ringing. Bond, tell Madly we leaving, then he grab her by the hand and run off to the car. Following this, Madly then tells Bond there's something she need to tell him, but Bond at the moment care less about what she has to say. Shortly after that, they've been chased all over the town by men in cars and on motorbikes. Our secrets. We didn't just don't get to yours yet. After some time, a truck collided at them and their car stopped at a square. Shortly after that, they've been surrounded by men with guns. Soon after, guns fight erupts. They're all shooting at Bond's car. Fortunately, the car is bulletproofed. The next moment, a man walked towards Bond's car and started shooting at close proximity. Upon seeing this, Madly started screaming and pleading with Bond to do something, to please do something. Upon hearing that, Bond stared at her and say, "Okay." Apparently, James' car is also equipped with weapons. Bond shoots sporadically at the men, spinning the car 360 degrees. He then creates a smoke bomb and escapes from the scene. Moments later, they're seen at a train station. Soon after, they both hug each other and Madly whispers, "So, this is it," Bond also replies, "This is it." Shortly after that, he put Madly on the train and Madly asks, how would she know that Bond is okay? In reply, Bond tell her she won't, because she will never see him again. The movie shift to a scene 5 years later, several men seen in masks trying to break into a building. The next moment, a woman is seen pushing a trolley in a lab filled with several scientists. Shortly after that, the phone of one of the scientists rings. He picks, they call her, inform him. They are coming, Spectre, and the caller's words, "Do not try to stop them. This is what we've been waiting for. They will ask you to enter biosecurity level 4-3 and remove the weapon. No one must see what the scientist is doing. They will not kill him. They think they need you. Immediately, the scientist seen transferring classify files into a drive. After this, they call or instruct him to swallow it, which he did. Suddenly, the lights goes off and all the computer systems in the lab turns off, followed by a blast and sporadic gunshots. The next moment, they men in masks walked straight to all the scientist weapon and left along with Valdo Opachev, the corrupt scientist. After that, they're seen jumping off one after another, through the space behind the elevator with magnets. After this, the men in masks blow off the lab. The next morning, a lady seen walking into an office. She informed her boss about the incident. Meanwhile, the boss is already aware of it. Apparently, the lab is not on the book. This was a discreet lab. As regards the boss intent telling the PM, it was a gas leak. After that, the boss then asked her, "Where is 007? In the next scene, James Bond seen sailing alone. He got off the boat with some fish and walked towards a villa. He finds something. It's ashes of Cuban cigar on the bench. Upon seeing this, he dropped the fish and takes his gun with him to the house. The house is clear. He, however, finds the cigar in the villa on a table. The next moment, Bond is seen in a truck driving. He spots a car trailing him. Suddenly, he turns and ambushes them. There are two men in the car. Bond recognizes one of the men known as Felix, as they are on the same team. The other man feels so honored to meet Bond. Moments later, Felix asks Bond if there is anywhere quiet, where they could talk in private. Upon hearing this, Bond then asks where he finds the other guy. Felix in reply says, "Political appointee, not his choice." Upon hearing this, Bond complained about the guy's smiles. He smiled too much. Then he left the club. Moments later, outside, Bond is seen struggling to start his truck. A lady pulls off on a scooter and offers him a ride. He hobbled on it. She introduced herself as Newman. She's a diver. After some time, they arrive at Bond's villa. She asks him to tell the chief Felix. Felix tells him there is a lady in Santiago he wants Bond to meet. Bond sail his way to Santiago, Cuba. In the following scene, Bond meet a lady. She walk him to a room and hand him a black suite. They're both seen at a dinner party. The next scene, the corrupt scientist is seen testing the sample and purposely drop a drive. He switch it up with another one. After that, he upload and encode the target profiles and weaponized it. After this, the corrupt scientists celebrate the happy new future for Spectre. Meanwhile, the man in the room with the corrupt scientist takes the weapon and put in the air-conditioned gas switch. Meanwhile, Bond is still scanning around the event for the corrupt scientist. Moments later, the corrupt scientist shows up at the party. He is seen upstairs coming down nervous. Soon after, James' Bond cover is blown. Someone turned the gas on, and all the Spectres started dying one after the other. The corrupt scientist looks stoned, saying, it's working, only Spectre are dying." Suddenly, a gunfight erupts, and the new 007 is seen trying to get hold of the corrupt scientist. But Bond, with the help of the lady with him, whisked the corrupt scientist away. The lady is seen telling Bond to stay longer when next he comes to Cuba. Shortly after that, Bond and the corrupt scientist both fly to a ship on the sea. Moments later, Bond is seen interrogating the corrupt scientist. He is trying to find out what is going on exactly. The next moment, fight erupt. The man with Felix is a spy, working along with the corrupt scientist team. The spies shoot Felix and trap Bond in the basement of the ship, then blow up the ship. After that, he escapes the ship with the corrupt scientist with the aircraft. Sadly, Bond lost his friend, but he survives the blast and is seen on a lifeboat as a cargo ship approaches. Sometime later, Bond opens up a storage, finds a car, and get on the road. He arrives at the agency HQ and Bond requests a meeting with Belmosh, the only member of Spectre still breathing, but the agency chief hesitates, so Bond left. One of the staff at the HQ decide to help Bond. She takes Bond to someone she trusts to help access the drive Bond recover from the corrupt scientist. Suddenly, it's a chilling discovery. There have been thousands of DNA data breaches in the world on the drive. It's not just Spectre only. Upon seeing this, Bond desperately wants Belmosh, and there is only one person that can get him to Belmosh, and that's Madley, his girlfriend. Shortly after that, Madley, Bond's girlfriend, is seen talking to a man. The man says he once saves a life, and saving someone's life connects you to them for life. After that, he hands Madley a box. In that box is the mask he was wearing on the day he killed Madley's mother. Upon seeing this, Madley is shocked, and her eyes filled in tears. The man threatens Madley. He saved her life as regards Madley owe him. After that, he gives her something to carry on her while visiting someone. Madly is the only one who can do it. In reply, Madly asks why would she want to do anything for him? The man is hell-bent on killing anyone she loves. In the next scene, the agency chief seen briefing Bond the weapon created to save lives, and it has to be off the books. And now they don't know what these people are after. In reply, Bond tells him they are after Blofeld. After Blofeld, they may want world leaders, innocent civilians, freedom, and so on. She still asks curiously, 00 what? Group. Upon hearing this, the chief replies saying it never meant this to become weapon of mass destruction. He asks to call the Prime Minister to quarantine the family from the funeral. Mr. Bond finally gets his wish to meet Blofeld and find where he can get Opachev. Soon after, the new 007 scene asking Bond, we don't have a trail, he tells her. Dogonash and find him, you find Opachev. Meanwhile, Madly sprays what he receives earlier on is seen meeting up with Bond. They are scheduled to meet Blofeld in prison and get a name behind the heist. Shortly after walking in, Madly ran out and left Bond alone with Blofeld. Meanwhile, Bond plead with Blofeld, tell him who is behind the heist, and he will leave him alone. He seems to be playing around with Bond. Following that, conversation between them got tense. Bond get upset and tries squeezing his neck. Shortly after that, Blofeld is affected by the virus, and so after he died. It seems Bond is now carrying on him the virus and can't take it off. Seen talking to the other scene, Madly seen putting her daughter to bed as Bond watch on. But Madly tells Bond she's not his. Bond asked the blue eyes, but Madly insisted she's not yours. She then tells him she has something to show him. Having breakfast, his phone rings. It seems to find an island in between Japan and Russia. There's a chemical plant dating back to the Second World War. And it seems Japanese intelligence reported suspicious woods and abandoned their car. Bond run to a safe place and ask Madly take cover with her daughter, then hand a gun to shoot anyone who come through that door except him. Moments later, Madly seen killing everyone who trespass. After some time, Safia is seen kidnapping Madly and her daughter. Bond ran after them. Sadly, they are seen in a helicopter. Shortly after that, Bond seen walking alone before the new 007 give him a ride. The next moment, the new 007 pleaded with the agency chief to reinstate Bond back as 007. In the next scene, Safi is seen with Madly and her daughter walking through a lab with many workers. Opachev, the corrupt scientist, seen waiting to welcome him. In the following scene, Bond and the new 007 seen on a surveillance plane. Soon after, in a drone heading towards the island where the corrupt scientist is, they both got access into the lab. After some time upstairs to negotiate. Meanwhile, two men offer Madly tea. She pours it to the face of the security protecting him and escape. Soon after, Bond meet with Safia to negotiate. Safia is seen sitting with Madly's daughter. After few conversations, Safia asks Bond to leave him alone and he will leave Bond alone too. Safia offer Bond a deal, leave my island quietly and take Madly's daughter along. Upon hearing this, Bond insists Madly to be part of the deal as well, but Safia refuses. He insists Madly stays. Shortly after that, Bond takes his gun out and kills all the men with Safia, but Safia escaped with Madly's daughter through a tunnel. Immediately, Madly walked in and asked, "Where's my daughter?" The next moment, Safia is seen walking through a tunnel with Madly's daughter. Suddenly, she bites his hand. Immediately, Safia drop her off and tell her to go. She's seen running. Meanwhile, on the surveillance plane, suspected activities spotted on the radar, two ships heading towards the island, still no sign of Bond. Moments later, the new 007 dragged the corrupt scientist around and is seen been thrown into acidic liquid. Soon after, Bond's seen telling everyone to move. Suddenly, the little girl call her mother, then come out under the chair. Shortly after that, the navies of Russian and Japanese want to know why a 17 aircraft circling around a disputed island. After some time, Bond meet up with the new 007 in the tunnel and head out. The next moment, Bond put Madly and her daughter on a boat with 007 and Madly and tell Madly he has to finish this for them, then head back into the lab tunnel. Soon after, gunfight erupts on his way to the bunker. Safia men are all over fighting. Shortly after that, Bond open up the bunker and tell Q to launch the missiles and other to have significant effect. Moments later, the bunker started closing back before he could go back to reopen it. Safia started shooting him. He fights back, breaks his hand, then shoot and kill Safai. He then rushes back to reopen the bunker. He is struggling in pain. Bond asks other. Bond is seen standing at the top of the bunker as the missiles strike. In the following scene, the agency chief seen addressing the team in his words, "The function of man is to live, not exist. I shall not waste my days trying to prolong it. I should use my time." After that, together they all drink to James. The movie ends with Madly talking to her daughter while driving on a lonely road. She's going to tell her daughter a story about a man. His name is Bond. James Bond. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe for more recaps.